9:15 in the morning is already behind us. We have time to tell you about the most important news, television news service. While you're watching this broadcast, don't forget to like and leave a comment. Casualties in Kherson. The Russians shelled the regional center with artillery. A woman was killed in the suburbs. She was outside at the time. In the Dnipro district, a man suffered fatal injuries. In the Korabelny district, a Russian drone attacked an elderly city resident. He sustained explosive injuries. One person was killed and 10 others, including a 4-year-old child, were wounded in the Kharkiv region. In the evening, the Russians struck the center of Balaklia with an Iskander missile. The missile hit the ground next to a 5-story apartment building. A cafe, a pharmacy, shops, an administrative building, cars were damaged. 2 districts in the Dnipropetrovsk region came under fire. The occupiers shelled them with grads, FPV drones, and artillery. A private house was damaged. Another house caught fire. A 73-year-old man was wounded in the Zaporizhzhia region. Over the past day, the Russians carried out 587 strikes on 13 settlements in the region using drones, artillery, aviation, and multiple rocket launch systems. 13 houses and farm buildings were damaged. In the Kyiv region, a fire broke out in a 2-story sanatorium building, which was not in operation during a Russian drone attack. In the Bucha district, a man sustained shrapnel wounds. A day of mourning has been declared in Odesa region. This is in memory of the tragic death of 10 people. On this day, all entertainment events are cancelled and the national flags will be flown at half-mast. In the evening, rescuers were able to reach the place where an entire family had perished. A family of 5, 2 men, 2 women, and an 8-year-old child were trapped in their own home. Neighbors said that the water level rose very quickly and in the deepest part reached 5 meters. People were unable to open the door to get outside. The deceased family were internally displaced persons. Another victim is a 38-year-old railway worker. The woman was hurrying home, and when she couldn't get through by car, she set out on foot. But she couldn't make it across one of the streams. Another victim, a 23-year-old woman, was searched for all night. Witnesses saw her being carried away by the current, but they couldn't help. The identities of several other victims are still being established. In the occupied Kherson region, the so-called head of the Council of Deputies, Vladimir Leontiev, has been eliminated. Exclusive footage of the liquidation of the main collaborator in Nova Kakhovka was shown by journalist Yuri Butusov. This action is linked to the activities of the local resistance movement and is a form of retribution against traitors and accomplices of the occupiers. Let me remind you, Leontiev is known for having ordered Russian troops in March 2022 to kidnap and torture the mayor of Berislav, Alexander Shapovalov. For this, the collaborator was sentenced in absentia to 15 years in prison. The first blackouts and state of affairs of previous years. Due to an enemy attack, the city of Slavutik was left without power. The Russians struck the local substation. As a result, the city of 20,000 was left without electricity and water. The local authorities are setting up points of invincibility, promising to provide power and communication there. Some communities in Chernihiv region are also without electricity, part of the communities in Chernihiv region. The situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is critical. The station has been operating solely on backup diesel generators for 11 days now. And the current fuel reserves will only last for so long. This was stated by the International Atomic Energy Agency. The Director General emphasized that this situation is unstable. From the perspective of nuclear safety, if the backup systems shut down, there will be a risk of nuclear fuel meltdown. Such an emergency situation at the nuclear power plant has happened for the first time in its entire history. President Zelensky announced this the day before. He instructed the Ministries of Energy and Foreign Affairs to draw the world's attention so that pressure would be put on Russia to allow the repair of the power line. The Security Service of Ukraine has notified in absentia a Russian general who commanded the blowing up of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant of suspicion. This concerns Major General Vladimir Omelyanovich, Chief of Staff and First Deputy Commander of the Dnipro grouping of the Russian Armed Forces. According to the investigation, it was he who, on the night of June 6, 2023, coordinated the actions of his subordinates to destroy the dam of the hydroelectric power plant. 35 civilians were killed and another 24 went missing. 46 settlements and nearly 1,500 hectares of agricultural land in the Kherson region were flooded. Several regions experienced problems with water supply. There was also a threat to the technical maintenance of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. EU leaders are preparing for a possible military conflict by 2030. How to strengthen their own defense capabilities and use Russian assets to finance Ukraine is being decided in Denmark, where recently drones paralyzed the operation of 6 airports. Radio Liberty EU correspondent Zoriana Stepanenko reports on European plans next.
The story with drones, which regularly disturb the European skies, is reflected both in the summit's agenda and in the conditions under which Denmark's Prime Minister is hosting EU leaders. They are being protected by a German frigate off the coast of Copenhagen, which is monitoring the airspace, while the meeting venue is surrounded by air defense systems. For the duration of the summit, Denmark has banned even civilian drones from flying, since just last week these devices paralyzed the operations of 6 airports, and Russia is suspected to be behind it. The defense of Europe amid rising threats is one of the 2 major topics for discussion. The second is Ukraine, so both topics are inextricably linked. The plan is to rearm by 2030 in order to be able to defend ourselves. The European Commission has proposed several new flagship projects, including a drone wall, which they say can be built quickly if desired. Today, all these projects are being discussed.
When I look at Europe today, I think we are in the most difficult and dangerous situation since the end of World War II, even more so than during the Cold War. Of course, I want us to rearm, to gain more capabilities, to implement more innovations.
When it comes to innovation, Ukraine's experience is considered indispensable. Its experience, as well as its production capacities, are planned to be utilized. Today, 4 billion euros were sent to Ukraine, the next tranche of a loan that is being repaid thanks to profits from frozen Russian assets. It is expected that 2 billion out of the 4 will be spent on drone production, said the head of the European Commission. They are also discussing the use of the assets themselves. There is a proposal to provide Ukraine with a reparations loan in the amount of 140 billion euros. The assets would serve as collateral, and Ukraine would only have to repay the loan if it receives compensation from Russia. It's a sensitive issue, says the president of the European Commission. The countries have their doubts, but their attitude is positive. We also hear this from diplomats who, without revealing their names, talk about the discussions at the summit.
There is a growing consensus among us that it should not be only European taxpayers who pay for supporting Ukraine, but also that Russia must be held accountable. Russia will be blamed. I think now we have a reliable legal way to do this through proposals, through reparations.
Another sensitive issue that the leaders will discuss is Ukraine's future membership in the EU. The negotiation process is being blocked by Hungary. Further progress is currently impossible, but the president of the European Council has proposed to review the procedure. To open negotiation chapters by a majority vote, not unanimously, unanimity would only be required to close them. But again, any changes to the procedure must be agreed upon by all EU countries, including Hungary, of course. Viktor Orban made it clear before the summit that he would not agree to this, and once again spoke out against Ukraine's membership in the European Union, as he does not consider it a sovereign state.
They don't have the money to support themselves. We pay for their army, their government apparatus, their pensions. We pay for everything. If someone else is supporting you, then you are not a sovereign country. This is not a statement, but a financial fact.
The summit in Copenhagen is informal and does not provide for any decisions. But if the discussions go well before the next meeting, which is scheduled for the end of October, the European Commission will prepare a roadmap for rearming Europe. As for the reparations loan, it's difficult to predict when it will be approved. The idea is currently more in the category of if it gets approved. Zoriana Stepanenko, Marek Hajduk, Radio Svoboda, special for TSN 1+1.
You're watching TSN. Subscribe to stay up to date with the main news. Hit the bell on our YouTube channel and I'll continue with the news broadcast. In Poland, a Ukrainian has been taken into custody in connection with the Nord Stream pipeline explosions case. This was reported by Polish radio. The Warsaw court has decided on a 7-day arrest. German authorities suspect the Ukrainian citizen of involvement in the pipeline explosions in 2022. He worked as a diving instructor and allegedly could have participated in planting the explosives. During the week, the prosecution is awaiting the relevant documents translated into Polish. This is already the second Ukrainian who has been detained in this case. In August, a man who had come on vacation with his family was taken into custody in Italy under a European warrant. The German prosecutor's office considers him the coordinator of the sabotage. The suspect himself denies any involvement in the explosions and claims that at the time of the sabotage, he was in Ukraine. They beat him and shaved his head. In Poland, a group of teenagers brutally abused a Ukrainian man. According to the Polish police in Wrocław, local boys created a fake social media account pretending to be a 16-year-old girl and lured a 23-year-old Ukrainian man to what was supposed to be a date. And when he arrived, they beat him, shaved his head, and drew Nazi symbols on his face. They filmed the whole thing. Polish law enforcement stated that such actions are a crime. This is not only about the beating, but also about disturbing ideological motives. The European Investment Bank is allocating 300 million euros for Ukraine to purchase gas. This loan will help our country get through the upcoming heating season. Russia has destroyed 42% of gas production facilities. Therefore, Ukraine is heavily dependent on imported gas. The underground gas storage facilities are already 95% filled with the necessary fuel. The provided loan is set for a term of 20 years, and it will allow not only the import of 600 million cubic meters of gas, but also investment in future projects, assures Naftogaz head Serhiy Koretsky. Electricity prices will rise for businesses in the Zaporizhzhia, Mykolaiv, Sumy, Kharkiv, and Dnipropetrovsk regions. This is due to the large debts of energy companies from the frontline regions to Ukrenergo. To pay off old debts and repair the damaged infrastructure, they were allowed to raise electricity distribution tariffs for businesses by 17 to 20%. This could lead to higher prices for goods and services for the end consumer, meaning all of us. This will likely reduce the number of local businesses in these regions, the Federation of Employers of Ukraine emphasizes. Due to a sharp drop in temperature, heating has started to be supplied in Rivne. The radiators have become warm in the maternity hospital and the city children's hospital. Meteorologists are warning about the first frosts. At night, the temperature may range from 0 to -3 degrees. Energy workers are urging management companies to prepare buildings for the supply of heat. Currently, only 121 apartment buildings out of more than 800 have certificates of readiness. At this moment, that was the latest update. Don't miss our upcoming TCH broadcasts to stay informed about current events.